Clash of Clans and Clash Royale maker Supercell has joined forces with non-profit organization Internet Matters on a mission to help keep children safe in the digital world. The pair will work together to ensure children remain safe while playing online games, and will look to provide families with new advice and resources to help achieve that goal. It's a notable partnership for Internet Matters, as having the company of Supercell stature, it could encourage other high-profile members of the games industry to back the initiative. Outlining the importance of the cause, the group pointed to a recent survey it conducted that showed gaming is the second activity parents are most concerned about when it comes to how their children use their screen time. The first was watching videos. Out of those surveyed, 49% of parents explained they are particularly worried about how their children come into contact and interact with strangers when playing online. With the rise of online and mobile gaming, we have seen a real demand from parents who want to know more about how to manage their children's online gaming and keep them safe while playing, commented Internet Matters CEO Carolyn Bunting. We are delighted to be working with an organization who is on the cutting edge of mobile gaming technology that shares our vision for improving children's digital well-being. This interview is part of our Road to EF series. You can find the rest by clicking here. Seers Isle is a visual novel that explores player agency in the genre, casting them as an invisible character who must use choice to change her fate. Gamasutra sat down with Geoffroy Vincens, writer for the Excellence in Narrative nominated Seers Isle, on Nico Fouqué, its art director, to talk about exploring the player's role through the story of the game, as well as the complexities of telling a good story while giving players control of it. I am Geoffroy Vincens, founder and writer at Novabox, a small indie game studio focused on narrative games and located in Bordeaux, France. The core of the team is composed of 3 people working full-time. Raphaël Bobinnec, who is the lead developer and charge of all things technical. Nico Fouqué, who is responsible for the art direction of our games, and most of the illustrations themselves. And me, Geoffroy. I am the writer, and I am also in charge of the boring administrative stuff. For everything we do not do in-house, we rely on a network of talented freelancers. For Seers Isle, we worked with 2 music composers, Camille Marcos and Julien Ponsoda. We had Rachel Capie and Alix do Yelst, the English translation and proofreading of the vast amount of text that's in the game. We also had the chance to work with 3 talented art interns during the production, Ambre Sedogdo Esther Chahian and Manon Salomon Vincens. Novabox has been around for quite a while now. I founded the company in 2007, and during the first years, we were mainly subcontractors for bigger game studios in the Bordeaux area, working on Nintendo DS titles. Since 2013, we have been releasing narrative games, starting with Echoes between 2013 and 2015. It was an episodic game for iPhone and iPad, then Along the Edge in 2016. In 2017, we created an interactive novel called Orphan Age Diaries for our friends and fellow game developers, Studio Black Flag, to flesh out the universe and help promote their next title, Orphan Age. Orphan Age Diaries got a limited release in 2018 during Orphan Age's Kickstarter campaign, but it should be made widely available in the near future. Fouqué, I started working as a game artist in 2007 too. I have a Master of None profile, but I always was interested in illustration, And of course, comics art. Fouqué. Other inspirations came, of course, from visual novel games. Visual novels were still quite underground in France back in 2012. It was our friend, Frédéric, Ekmule, Lignac, who co-wrote our first narrative game, Alix, who had this idea. We all thought it was great. So, despite the commercial failure of Alix, we decided to go on making narrative games. We wanted them to be focused on the literary aspect, like a choose-your-own-adventure book. The text is really the most important aspect of our games. It is our main tool for storytelling and interactivity. For instance, when we finished releasing Alix back in 2015, Fouqué and I both came up with the concept for our next game. I had written the synopsis of what would become Along the Edge, our 2016 game, while Nico came up with the concept of what would become Seers Isle. We decided to go for Along the Edge first, as it was the less ambitious project of the two. So, the project had a long inception time, and it evolved in an organic way over the years. We knew that what we wanted to do, however, was to use a fantasy setting, and that our piece would question the agency of the player in interactive fiction. Fouqué. The main idea was to tell a story in which player agency makes sense. In Seers Isle, our main character, Rowan, is in a situation really close to a visual novel player. She is invisible to the other characters, and she has only a few shots to change the course of events. Also, I was eager to make a love story. As it happens, this aspect became very secondary in the end. For instance, as Fouqué said, we wanted to explore a meta-narrative about the agency of the player in the context of the narrative game. Thus, the themes of the story came quite natural as the narrative revolves around the notions of fate and sacrifice. You play an invisible narrator who's trying to change her fate, with very limited ways to interact with the other characters. For instance, there are several options to make a story interactive. Some narrative games are only superficially interactive, with each choice leading back to the main plot no matter what, and it's completely okay. The story does not have to be interactive to be truly compelling. Thousands and thousands of books, movies, or comic books can attest to that. Some are driven by a die and retry mechanic, where you have to make the right sequence of choices to get to the end. What I am trying to achieve is to make the multiple paths and endings equally compelling, and to tailor them to the player preferences and inclinations, taking each small choice along the way into account. Fouqué. We are definitely not in the big, epic moral choices thing. Our goal is to determine a personality through a variety of small, frequent choices. They are not always dramatic in their consequences, but they give us the actions to drive the story, and ultimately decide of the endings. For instance, in Seers Isle, most of the decisions impact the story on two axes, represented by the icons that are shown at the top screen that are highlighted after the player makes a decision that impacts these variables: the hand, the eye, the deer, and the man. We voluntarily keep the meaning of these variables a mystery so that the player has to guess what each of them mean. Of course, these variables are related to the main themes we wanted to explore in the game, so that gives me a broad framework of which questions to ask, and which alternatives to give to the player, all along the story. Fouqué. These directions will also bring you closer to one of the characters in the game. This will gradually unlock backstories, details, and, of course, new choices about the character and the setting. For instance, of course, interactivity is not mandatory to make a story compelling. However, Seers Isle, and every story we tell would not make sense without interactivity. In non-interactive storytelling, the spectator, the reader, has no agency at all. As an author, your job is to demonstrate your point through your characters and your plot. However, when you add interactivity to your story, you have to take a step back and let the player draw their own conclusions.